welcome everybody. Thanks for coming into this beautiful Saturday where we are going to have Tina from Republic of Hackers talking about how you can find people for OSINT, giving it a more practical sense to all the knowledge we have from prior talks about OSINT, but they were all theoretical. So Tina, I hand it to you.
Awesome, thank you. So why am I talking to you about OSINT? I do volunteer with Trace Labs. It is not my day job. And I help the law enforcement groups find missing persons once a quarter. I have been a contributor, and I am now a senior judge. So while not all of us get that opportunity to volunteer, I would encourage people to volunteer often and get involved if you can. It's a really fun organization, and they have an opportunity to do a lot of good. One of the peculiar things about OSINT is that it varies by country. So, for example, it is easier to find people in the United States, and it is harder to find people in the European Union. GDPR, for example, gives people in the European Union the right to be forgotten. The United States and most other countries do not have this. So depending on what is happening and what you're looking for or how you're contributing or volunteering, this can put up barriers that make it a little harder. In the United States, there are a lot of questions about this right now, and we are certainly having those conversations on what is allowed and what is not. Open source intelligence is essentially any information from a free public source about an individual or an organization. So OSINT is certainly practiced on companies, finding out where the money's coming from, public information, and so forth. We're not going to dive into that today, but know that there are whole jobs created around researching companies and what they're doing. While in general, we think of OSINT as coming from the internet, paper records and libraries, microfiche, all of those wonderful things are still valid sources of information. They're free and they're open to the public. It does also include data on the dark web if you have the skills to get to it. And probably the number one way of finding information is using Google Dorks. So before we go too much further, let me ask you a question. How many of you have Googled yourself in the past 30 days? Give me a +1 in the chat if you have. Yeah. Yeah, dumpster diving for information. Yeah. I see that comment. I always recommend to my family that anything that has their name and address on it, they shred it. Don't throw it in recycling. Don't throw it in the trash. Because let's say you get a solicitation, please contribute to, Cats for a Cause. Now somebody who's trying to research you knows that you like cats and that you are a known donor to the whole organization, right? You have a Google alert. That's really good. Good. You have a legit stalker. I'm really, really sorry. This presentation is about OSINT for good. OSINT can also be very dangerous. And yeah. If you do not Google yourself or have Google Alerts set up, I recommend that you do it. I recommend that you look through pages 1, 2, 3, all the way as far as you can. Put your name in quotes, put former names, things like that, and see what's out there. It's better to know than to not. And if you really want to scare yourself, go to that'sthem.com. I did this with my family at our family reunion, and people were shocked what was out there. So, for example, even people who are off the grid, so to speak, who've never had a cell phone or a social media account, will show up as known associates to you. and people that are connected to you through either a family or a family connection or some sort. Yeah, that's them.com. And it's one of many. I mean, the people search engines, there's one of many.
Yeah, and how do you think being mindful of what you post affects what information can be found online? Because like a year ago when I wasn't raised, it would have been really hard to find me. But after a year of volunteering, putting myself out there, I know what has been posted of me and what I have posted. I know that if someone wants to find me, they will find me. So,
Right.
what's your take?
Yeah. It's this is why laws like GDPR are so important. Yes, it limits law enforcement's ability to find people, but it also gives us the right to be forgotten or to give us privacy. And I'll share with you at the end of this some resources if you want to try and erase your digital profile. 10i.com, that one can be a little terrifying too. If you upload a photo of yourself, it'll search and see where else it can find photos of you using facial recognition. That one, a lot of people are a little surprised what comes up. So again, give it a try and realize that your data is out there. For those of us who do this with missing persons, social media is absolutely the gold mine. First off, people recycle usernames. If they are Redbird Canary on Facebook, they're Redbird Canary on Instagram, Twitter, or some slight variation of that on just about every social profile. There are tools available to us like Sherlock, who will do an enumeration of usernames and give us other, like maybe it's an underscore, maybe it's a 13, maybe it's a 12, maybe it's their birth date. No, that's always a great one. People have their birth date or their wedding anniversary and their username. That's gold mine there. And by default, people don't review their privacy settings in social media, right? For example, Venmo, when you pay somebody, that is public. That's easily found by others. So they know what you're buying. And they can look at who you're sending money to, or if you're buying from a vendor, they can see where. When you donate through those donation calls on Facebook, that's public, that's global. So everybody can see what you donated to. People put their birthdays on Twitter. Why the hell would you do that, right? That's public information. Your profile is either public or it's locked, right? So social media is an absolute gold mine. Then you got those darling friends and family who want to tag you in everything. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, wherever. They want to tag you. And again, most people don't review their privacy settings, so you can learn a whole lot about a person. My mother recently made a mistake and her Facebook settings were set to globally public available. And I was like, Mom, stop, fix that. So we can't always control what other people are doing, but review your privacy settings, much like Googling yourself every now and then. Review your privacy settings. I recommend once a month, but that's just me because I'm a little bit paranoid. Yeah, Vacation Condo was accepting money by Venmo, had to remind them to lock it down because it made vacationers vulnerable. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Reverse image searches are also a gold mine. There's this really fabulous plugin, Search by Image for Firefox, and it runs through the most well-known reverse image searches. And again, it can be pretty easy to narrow down a location if it's a really well-known icon. So, you know, obviously everybody knows where the Eiffel Tower is, but maybe some other random statues in the background. You run a reverse image search because somebody posted it publicly on Instagram, and you know where that person is. And then don't forget, dating sites are a goldmine too. Those of us who cultivate really long-term relationships with our sock puppets and keep them alive often will put them up on dating apps so that we can find missing persons or find threat actors. So, yeah, anything online, proceed with caution, but those are some of the big ones. But wait, there's even more things that can help us find people and find out about them. Real estate listings. If you are in an area where real estate listings include all of the photos, like realestate.com, Zillow.com, most local brokers are putting 360 tours now. Think about what you can learn. If you're able to figure out somebody's address, you're able to see their taxes in many countries. It's public information. You can find out what utilities they're using. You can find out the floor plan, property facts. How big is the yard? Would it be easy to sneak up in the yard? Would somebody, do they have a security system? Do they have a dog? Do you see dog beds in the pictures? Is the home occupied? Right? Is there somebody currently living there? So again, start connecting the dots of what could we find out? So let's say a missing person has a registered address and we find it on, and we suspect foul play or something like that. And we find it on one of these apartment sites or a real estate listing. You start to realize like, okay, they were really exposed. What could have happened? Let's look more. Were there any cameras in the building? Anything, right? And unfortunately, the things that can be found on the internet and elsewhere go on and on and on. One of my ways of practicing my OSINT is my baby brother. It's totally fine. He's a jerk. Just kidding. But I love to look up how many speeding tickets he has. And then I tease him about it in front of our parents and get him in trouble a little bit. But I started doing it to his son. And I'm like, so how many speeding tickets do you really have? And he's like, 2. And I'm like, no, you have 3. Don't lie to me. Because I will find out. So court records can be found. Divorce records in some states can be found and are online. Deeds, property records, property taxes, as I mentioned, if you've owned anything. In the United States, we can find out political donations. So who are you donating to? What kind of rallies might you be going to if you're a missing person and you've disappeared? What areas could you have been in? Who are you hanging out with? And then there's the dark web. There's just, all sorts of things there. Social security numbers, passwords, all sorts of things that generally in the OSINT for Good, we are trying to stay away from. We don't want to log into their websites, but it gives us context of how exposed a person may have been if they were, suddenly turned up missing. Thank you for putting those links in there. So like I said, this is pretty bad, right? Blackmail and compromise can be the dark side of OSINT. Let's say they find out that, your mortgage is much higher than you can actually be affording, and they put pressure on you to reveal secrets about your company, and in exchange they will give you money. Or you're donating a lot to the Cancer Society because you have a family member who is struggling with cancer and the bills are getting really high, and you're just hoping that somebody finds a cure, and they put pressure on you to put malicious code in the software for your company. Here in the US, one of the things that happens a lot is swatting. They call in false claims to your home for police to say, oh, I heard somebody screaming. I think there's a domestic abuse incident happening. And somebody shows up at your door, and oftentimes people will get arrested. The people who are innocent. It is illegal to do this, but that doesn't stop bad actors. Doxing. It's very easy to find people's phone numbers and email and addresses. We see this also with, politicians, election workers, being harassed and people violating their spaces by showing up at their homes. And then identity theft. Again, talking about, going through dumpster diving, figuring out what you like, figuring out your social security number off of the dark web, and then stealing your identity. But it can be used for good, as I mentioned. So Trace Labs, we help finding missing persons, and we work with law enforcement. I'm just going to look at the chat here. My younger sister tried it because she was concerned about her privacy. Yeah, that's a good use of OSINT too, is helping people understand how public they are, right? Like I said, I had my family do that'sthem.com, and they were really shocked. So OSINT can be good, like was just mentioned. Watch for yourself, help protect people within your family, make sure that they're well educated about what they're doing before it becomes a problem. And it also has helped us find missing persons safe and sound. This was the numbers from the DEF CON global search party. We found one of the cases, she was alive and well. One of the cases, it was clear that she had likely gone off the road, and about 2 weeks later, divers did find her car and her remains. We have found runaway brides who escaped their family and went and lived their life happily ever after. We have found people who passed from COVID and their family didn't know. So it can be used for good. It gives closure. It frees up law enforcement time so that they're not continuing to search for somebody who is safe or no longer with us. So if you want to practice OSINT, first thing is make sure you are safe. Build your sock puppets. Never use your personal accounts, right? Algorithms, particularly like Facebook and others, like to say, do you know this person? Would you like to be friends with them? So always make sock puppets. Make fake accounts. Make them look real. Care and feed them every few weeks. Just post random content. Make sure you connect to other people's on LinkedIn. There's LinkedIn Open Network, Lion. People who want to connect to everybody. Probably a bunch of sock puppets, but whatever. Leith Dennis gave me the perfect way to set up a LinkedIn profile. Set yourself up as a recruiter. And nobody really questions why recruiters are looking at their profile. People are like, oh, recruiter, right? You will probably need a burner number these days to verify your account, particularly for Facebook. That seems to be the big one that they'll let you set up an account, but then after a few days, they'll trash it because they believe it's potentially fake. Use photos. This person does not exist is a good one. But algorithms can also see through those sometimes. So then play with filters like Snapchat or beauty apps to change up the image, tilt it a little, change the coloring, whatever. And then rotate the picture when you can. And then most importantly, know your story and stick to it and your persona. So for example, my person, she has a whole backstory. I have it all written down, where she lives, where she's worked, her favorite things, her likes, her dislikes, her political affiliations. And her backstory is she had to recreate all of her social media accounts because she was doxxed and her identity was stolen. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Dungeons and Dragons character, but in 2022. Exactly. You got to keep them alive and you got to keep feeding them or, they get shut down. And never burn a sock puppet. Oh my gosh, that's the worst is when you accidentally dox your own sock puppet. That's the worst. I also do recommend using a virtual machine. Now, when we're doing OSINT for good, this is probably less of a requirement. I run my sock puppet in a separate browser that is not a browser I ever use personally. But it is a best practice overall with OSINT to use a virtual machine, snapshot it, and when in particular you are looking for missing persons, when you're done, shut it all down, delete it, restore it back from snapshot, and move on with your day. You find some very disturbing things when you're helping find missing persons. And, the worst thing is to have it lingering in your downloads or lingering on your desktop when you open your computer again. You need to mentally shut down and remove yourself from the search. Don't try and go OSINT whatever happens with those people. That is the way to madness. Do your job, shut it down, and go on. If you are doing OSINT for professional purposes, a VM is most likely required. It's, if you're searching people like a private investigator would, or companies, you want a virtual machine.
Yeah, and I would like to add a case I heard from David Stoff from National Cyber when he was doing volunteering for bringing people to the US from the Middle East. And there was this case where one of the volunteers did all the soap puppets, but didn't use a burner phone. She used her personal phone number. And when that sock puppet account got burned, they discovered it. She got threatened. Her family got threatened through that sock puppet account because she didn't use a burner phone. And
Yeah.
that's why you have to be really careful with this type of.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to burn your own personal identity. Never OSINT with your personal identity. Always use sock puppets. And if you can't, virtual machines, VirtualBox is very popular. It is free, pretty straightforward. It takes a lot of memory, in my opinion, and it can be a little challenging to use different keyboards and mice with it. Of course, I speak as a person who's on a Mac, so nothing's easy for me. VMware also has a free version at times. Again, not always on a Mac because, well, whatever. There are more expensive programs like Parallels that have a really beautiful user interface, but VirtualBox is really what most people get started with to build their virtual machines.
Yeah, VirtualBox on macOS, it's hard to set up. Once it's set up, a few virtual machines, it works perfectly.
Yeah.
I've heard the VMware Fusion can be free for Intel Macs. I never found the link, so I could never open my VMware Fusion on my work laptop. So yeah, that's that.
Yeah. So VMware does not have a free version for Mac. It does have a free version for Windows, I guess. It looks like from the comments. And yeah,
Yeah,
we can
VMware,
PDF this presentation and send it around.
and the free version of VMware VMware workstation play are like that. I use the Pro version because I can get it for $60 instead of the 120.
The other thing that I would recommend is if you are using a VM or not, whatever you choose, make sure you're running a VPN. And there are plenty of free VPNs out there. It just, hide yourself a little bit more. Not only are you protecting yourself with sock puppets and a VM, but I do recommend a VPN. And that may be important if you're searching in a particular company or country. You want to see results first that are, say, you can set your VPN in Canada and see results that are coming first up in Canada, right? So move your VPN around as needed so that you get results in the country that you want, and you're also protecting your identity and location. So ITPR guy, are you using a Mac M1? That may be a new update if the Fusion. Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, that M1 thing. Not. I think VMware said they were not going to do an M1, and VirtualBox won't run either.
VirtualBox
The M1 is evil, but it's so fast. It's awesome. Don't at me on that. Oh,
VirtualBox have a dev release, like version 8, I think it is, and it works on OS in the M1 version.
I'll just put everything in the cloud, whatever. The other thing that's really important about OSINT is never do anything that would let the person of interest know that they're being looked at. Never do a password reset trying to get their password. Never friend them. Don't like anything. Don't subscribe to their TikTok. Don't do anything that could tip them off and make them go, huh. Obviously on LinkedIn, they can see if you look at their profile. So make sure you hide who can see your profile and you use something like, list yourself as like a recruiter or something, because those are the kind of things that people just shrug off. They're not worried about that. But yeah, never make a password request or do anything that could tip off the person of interest. We had a situation where a minor went missing, and her father had an FBI warrant out for his arrest. And we found him uploading to his GitHub, and we could target the IP address and turn it over immediately to law enforcement. So pretty cool. And he was pretty stupid. But hey, they probably caught him. If you really want to go deep down the rabbit hole of OSINT, inteltechniques.com. There are a lot of free resources on the website. Michael Basil does a podcast, and like I said, he gives free resources on how to help you disappear online if you need to, how to remove yourself from those people search sites, things to think about. He helps people disappear. Think about people who have been victims of violence, people who need to go into things like witness protection programs. He helps them disappear. It is a whole thing. If you are like me and you weren't paying attention to things early on, it's too late. You would have to pay somebody to help you erase your digital footprint, especially in the US. But you can keep things as clean as possible and reduce your risk. If you want to join us and volunteer, tracelabs.org, get on the Discord. You do not have to have experience to volunteer for the search parties. And they also do a breadcrumbs podcast that talks about OSINT techniques and tools. And with that, I will open it up for more questions. Yeah, I started out social media very public because I was an influencer for my large employer at the time, and now it's a hot mess. Like it's just a hot mess. And uh, I did a Republic of Hackers OSINT thing. I said, find me if you can before my OPSEC got totally trashed. And it took a day or two, but yeah, they found me.
Hi, I have a quick question regarding some of the toll it takes on you as an individual who does some of this OSINT for good, especially with some of the situations you described. How do you cope, and like what kind of resources would you recommend to somebody that might need it?
Yeah. So, um, it does take a toll. You have to you have to understand that you are providing a service that law enforcement now maybe has time to focus on more recent cases. The family gets closure, good or bad, right? Um, Sometimes it's good. It's they ran away and they don't want to have anything to do with you, right? Sometimes it's bad. We have found people who have become victims of human trafficking, so you have to hope that they're saved. Um, Part of it is is that shutting it down. Like for me, the closing of all the windows, deleting of the files, clearing my VM is sort of a process, a ritual that helps me let it all go because you can't see the cases on the website afterwards either. So it clears my mind of like what happened, and the names and the people and the links and the faces. Most people then have some sort of healthy activity they prefer to do. I like to cook afterwards. It gets my mind off of it. I listen to music. I dance around the kitchen. Uh, a lot of people will say don't drink because that's just not a healthy coping mechanism. I usually do have wine. Um, but it is a rigor to shut it all down and know that you have done your part and you've done it well and you have to just walk away. That's the best advice I can give.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Pet the dogs. Yes, I will definitely spend time with my dogs, like playing with a dog or a cat or something like that. Go horseback riding, whatever. Go for a hike. Those are excellent. Get back into the reality of the positivity. If you have children, play with your children. You know, get back into the positivity of
Yes,
the world.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
feed the intern.
Yeah,
Was there a
wait,
question out
I
there?
have a different.
Can you repeat? We didn't hear question.
Free to chat your questions if your audio is kind of struggling.
Talking about that it was still in the early days, but public abilities did have a publicity. But when I was a teen, I didn't really use social media, mainly because I'm the type of person doesn't think of grabbing your phone and taking a picture of the moment. I'm more of a person that lives the moment, and that's why I don't have pictures of a lot of precious moments. For example, I don't have pictures of my last dog because was it wasn't wired uh, in my brain to take pictures. Like I will not need them later. I prefer to live the moment, and that's why one of the regrets I have, and also the other bit, like being Latino. So Latino, uh, I always thought that social media are a scent, something sent from demons. So yeah, in my household, social media was banned for a long time.
Yeah. It happens, right? I try to coach my family as much as I can. Don't make yourself public. Watch for the little things like public donations, Venmo. Um, don't let people tag you. And I still to this day, I have a friend, like every time we travel together, before I sit down in the chair, he's checked me into the restaurant. I'm like, let's don't do that. Do you just clear their digital? So, some people need to have a big digital footprint out there because they want to be found. They want to be an influencer. They want recruiters to find them, etc. I do think that just about everybody can benefit from a good sanitation of their digital footprint. I mean, yeah, sharing your location all the time. One of the things that we have used is fitness apps, Strava, like it's a biking app that tracks where you're going. Geocaching apps, we can see, where they've been and hikes that they like. Um, Running apps, things like that. People will share those, like, hey, look, I just ran this 4 miles, and they post it on a globally open post, right? So there are benefits to these apps, such as, tracking your health and your fitness and so forth, but always review the settings. What is going on? Graphic designer, how can we decrease our digital presence? It's no different, right? I mean, for example, if you use tools like GitHub, don't use the same username that you use on Twitter. Shake it up. Make sure that you're using different, you're parceling out your life, right? Maybe you have a professional persona online, and then you have a personal persona online. If you are, and actually that's probably not a bad suggestion, right? Is have a personal lockdown profiles that you share with friends and family, and then have a professional one. LinkedIn obviously is the natural professional one. We are seeing more and more, and this is in the United States, this is technically illegal for recruiters to Google you and look for your social media profiles. But I have heard of people being in interviews and asked, like, so you were in Cabo last week. How was that? And they're like, wait, what? How'd you know that? So yeah, be aware that jobs, recruiters, they are not, again, they are not supposed to do that by some laws in many of the states, and generally they just shouldn't be doing that. But they might be. Yeah. I don't use usernames that are similar to my personal one I like in communities. I have different usernames in so many places. It gets really hard to manage though, doesn't it? Right? Like it gets very you start having like this split personality thing, right? My sock puppets are over here in one place, and then I've got my GitHub repo, and then I've got, leeloo, and then I'm me in some other places. It's very funny. And then, managing all the passwords. Lord help us all.
Glory to password managers.
What's that?
Glory to password managers.
Oh, totally, totally.
So yeah, Andrew mentioned like we should have the Raices guerreros for the traceless search party. When is the next? Oh,
What's that?
the next traceless search party.
I'm sorry, you were cutting out on me.
Oh, sorry. The next traceless search
The
party.
next Trace Labs. There will be one before the end of the year. So generally we do them once a quarter. We just had one at DEF CON. So there should be one more before the end of the year. I don't have a date on it, but the best way to find out is to keep an eye on the Discord. They'll announce it there. It should probably be before the major, end of December holidays, but you just never know with it's an all volunteer organization. Also, if you join, we have ongoing operations coming back. I think it is actually back up, which is cases that we put out there. So if you want to practice before a CTF, you can go look at some of the ongoing cases and contribute information or just see the information that people are able to find.
Yeah. Oh, make a once if we make a team for traceless.
Yeah.
There's
So I know,
one.
any more questions on the fun and games of OSINT?
I'm sorry, did you say where did you what got you interested in it in the first place? You said that you were a lawyer or excuse me, a judge?
Oh no, I'm most definitely not a legal person at all. I usually run from law, lawyers, not law enforcement, lawyers. Uh, I actually am a blue teamer. I work in cloud security, but through the magic of Discord and Twitter, I heard people talking about Trace Labs and OSINT. And Aleth Dennis, I will type her name in the chat. It was my inspiration. She is super cool. And so I volunteered for the Trace Labs Capture the Flag. And it was amazing. I learned so much and I volunteered a few more times. And then I raised my hand and said, I'd love to be a judge. So the way the search parties work, it's a capture. So you get points for the information you submit, but not all information is relevant. And the judges have to say yes or no to the information. And so I have now reached senior judge status, which means I have judged 5 or more capture the flags, and continue to kind of help. I want to work with them now to do the reporting. So after all of the data comes in, we have to generate reports to give back to law enforcement. Unless it's like one of those things where we find somebody who we can see exactly where they are, and we report that immediately to law enforcement. So.
When doing your whole reporting to the law enforcement thing, is there already some type of template or something in order to like know what procedures you need to do, like like um a list of comms, that sort of thing?
I will let you know once I get into it. So I did not start after DEF CON, so for the next CTF, I'm going to volunteer to do it.
Copy. Thank you so much. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions, so
Go
I'll
ahead.
try not to take up your time. I really appreciate you being so generous with your time.
Yeah, you can always DM me here on Discord and ask more questions. Yeah. Where would I suggest a beginner start? Google dorking. So, Google dorking. Learn how to be a complete badass with Google. And definitely just volunteer. I mean, if you work with a team on a capture the flag, you learn so much, and you learn different ways of thinking. So I get very stuck on things like I'm not good at image, like finding a location in an image. I use tools for that, and that's usually when I get my best answers. Yeah, try Hack Me Google Dorking. That's a very good one. Yeah, so same, I get stuck. So yeah, zoning in on an image and finding the location that it's in is really hard for me. I'm way better at social media and finding people in like databases, or not databases, but like court records and things like that. When you're doing a capture the flag, court records are not acceptable because law enforcement already has access to those. But sometimes in a court record, you can find that they changed their name. And so you can go and start searching with a name change. And now you're finding social media accounts that are the missing person, right? Yeah, if Google Lens doesn't give me the location, then I won't find it exactly. If my Firefox plugin doesn't give me a matching image that I can figure out, then yeah, I'm terrible. What other questions can I answer for you? See a couple people typing, so. Yeah, I really do encourage you all. We have reduced the time on the CTFs. They used to be 8 hours, and I have to tell you that was brutal, not just as a contestant, but as a judge. They've reduced them down to 4 hours, and we get better content, we get better leads, and we get just the energy stays a little higher, and you're not as wiped out afterwards. 8 hours of living, breathing these missing persons cases can be a bit of an emotional toll. So 4 hours seems to be a good spot. So tracelabs.org, Xtina? Yeah. Never do that. Never say, OSINT me if you can, right? People will find you. There's nothing worse than saying, "Oh, you can't find me," and then totally finding it. Yeah. Yeah. I see some more questions getting typed in. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're coming up on time, Leon. So
Yeah,
why don't I print this to PDF and then you can share it out to the community?
yeah, you can send it in this chat, and I can get it or in the
Perfect.
general chat so everyone can get access to it, and then I can
Perfect.
upload it to Drive.
Awesome. And if you do join the Trace Labs crew, I am over there on that Discord too. I'm not super active, but you can always find me by username in Discord and ask questions if you have any. I will not, if you are running a CTF, I will not tell you if your content's good or bad, because I will probably be judging it. No hints for knowing the judges.
Well, thank you very much for giving this talk. I find it beautiful. It was really insightful, and the people loved it. It was awesome. Thank you very much for coming here today.
Thank you for having me. You have a wonderful day.